live. Well, kind of. Anyways, welcome back, dude. We haven't been here. We're doing well, I should say I haven't been here with you specifically.
I mean, I haven't been here with you either. So, I mean, I think it's been a long time coming. And honestly, I was really excited about today. I was like, oh, shit.
I know. And it's like, dude, it's like substitute teachers are in, bro.
Right.
We're here, dude. We're doing Heads Up 7-Up and chilling.
Exactly.
But today is we're doing the October monthly review.
Yes, sir.
Tim and Sam aren't here, so hope you guys are having a great day.
Love you guys.
Love you guys, absolutely. And we're going to try to do our best here. Turns out, again, we have a ton of stuff to potentially talk about. You know, and we're kind of even talking beforehand. Mm-hmm. What's the route we're going to go today?
Right.
But if anyone can notice, myself and Evan are sporting the NFL day.
Yep.
Got a Steelers fan over here.
Yes, sir.
With a juicy matchup against the Rams today.
Oh no, that was last week.
Oh my gosh, who are you guys playing today?
We were playing the Jaguars, which that's going to be crazy.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, man, the Jaguars are doing really well this year. Trevor Lawrence, aka the Prince, is he's doing exactly what the Jacksonville Jaguars drafted him to do. He is definitely their cornerstone piece in that offense. He's definitely a great up-and-coming star. I think that it's anybody's game. I honestly, like, with my team, the Steelers, they're 4-2, but it's like, how the hell are they 4-2? They have an amazing defense. TJ Watt, who I'm wearing his jersey right now, he is absolutely amazing. Honestly, because of him, I think we are 4-2. He is the pivotal piece in our defense, just in our team in general. Honestly, I think he's making a great run to be Defensive Player of the Year. No. I mean, he has more sacks than anybody in the league right now.
Is he leading with sacks?
I believe so, yes. Unless there's been a change recently, but from last I checked. But you know, that being said, you know, great defense. Our cornerbacks are a little iffy. Our defensive backfield is not that great. We have problems there, but we have a lot of offensive weapons. We have a bad offensive coordinator by the name of Matt Canada, and he needs to make some maple syrup and get the fuck out of here. You know, so we need to fire him. And I'm very much on board with firing Matt Canada. I am very much on board with us figuring something else out. But the thing is, like, we still managed to win games. We have a lot of great pieces. Deontay Johnson, George Pickens, and then Kenny Pickett. Everybody is saying, like, oh, I don't know if Kenny Pickett's the guy. I actually kind of think he is. Honestly, he's only in his second season. But, you know, the way that this guy lights up in the fourth quarter, like, you want that in a quarterback. You don't want someone to shrivel up in the fourth quarter. You want someone to come back and actually win it for you, which he's done time and time again. I think that it's like when we get a proper offensive coordinator, and then also if we build up our offensive line, because that's trash right now too.
Yeah, I was going to say.
You know, it's like offensive coordinator and offensive line are not great. You know, Najee Harris hasn't been able to run the ball as effectively as, you know, we would like him to. Same with Jaylen Warren. Like, honestly, both of them are phenomenal.
I don't know why you guys don't start Warren and run Najee out of the slot for like a short passing game. Like, Jaylen Warren, I think, is a fantastic running back, and I think he will be the next. I mean, I like Najee Harris. Like, I always root for him because I feel like he's a cool guy. Like, I've seen a lot of off the field stuff with him. And he's a very likable, seems like a good team player.
He's from the Bay.
Is that where he's from?
Yeah, he's from. Okay. I think he's from Oakland.
Oh,
he's either he's
Bay Area guy.
Yeah, Bay Area guy.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, and you know what? I think I like how you say you don't know how you're 4-2, because I've watched a lot of Steelers games this year, and I kind of feel the same way. But they have this fourth quarter resurgence.
Yes,
it's like if they could just figure out how to start the game in that manner, then they would be a really, really a top tier team.
Well, you know what though? It's as far as with that, a lot of the fourth quarter stuff is more of like Kenny Pickett going off script. And like making audibles. Actually, there's been a couple of clips of the last couple of games that like they've scored touchdowns. Mm-hmm. You know, Kenny Pickett literally will call it audible and then do like a play that is like, no, fuck this, we're gonna do this play.
Yeah.
And then it'll cut back to Matt Canada and all, and everybody is like cheering and all, and then Matt Canada
the clipboard down,
and like he's just like there. He's not excited. He's just very stoic and all, and it's just like he's very like plain. And you'd think for a guy who's fighting for his job, you know, it'd be a little more excited that his offense is actually scoring. But then the thing is like, oh wait, it's not the play that he's rid up. Like it was like a totally like it was an audible that like Kenny Pickett was just like, no, we're doing this, and that happened like 2 games in a row now. And so, you know, just seeing them, like honestly, like it's the offense is. I wouldn't necessarily say like atrocious, but for a lack of a better word, atrocious for 3 quarters.
Just the consistency of the, like they seem to start flat,
Yes.
and then it takes the controversy throughout the game to kind of light that spark. But it is good seeing, like, you know, when you see the younger quarterbacks like get to go off script,
right?
I think that's where the promise of the future, like as a potential franchise quarterback, is at, right? Because it's like game script is one thing, and sometimes you'll see rookies do well.
Yeah,
I mean, a great example of that is like, not to be just because I'm a Bears fan, but Trubisky was a very good example of sticking to game script in the first 20 plays of the game.
Yep.
He would look like a top 10 quarterback, but anytime, because as the game goes on, defensive reads, they pick up on things, everyone's changing on both sides.
Yeah.
And now you have the off script potential changes, and that's where you see guys will not step into that next role and being that top tier quarterback like the Mahomes or like Aaron Rodgers or Tom Brady's a bad example because he basically called all the plays from from the quarterback position. But so it's fun seeing that. I'm a fan of Kenny Pickett, and George Pickens is the man.
Dude, he is a fucking beast. And it's funny that like you brought up Mitch Trubisky because now he's our backup quarterback.
I know. I was gonna say you're good, dude. He's a good like injury filler time guy.
Big time, big time. He is. And but I will say, and like again, I don't say this to be like to punch down at your team and everything. But
it's okay. I could take it. I'm a Bears fan.
No Bears, but it's like I think that they the Bears, that organization ruined Mitch Trubisky. Just like I think that they might be ruining Justin Fields.
Might be.
It might be. I think we're full blown.
Yeah, I was like, I think you've seen Justin Fields, and again, this isn't. I wish with every fiber of my being in football fandom as a Bears fan that Justin Fields delivers. It's not a. So when I say these things, it's not because I don't want him to be excellent, because he has all the markers. He's the build, the athletic ability.
Yeah. He has an arm.
He has a dude. When he was Ohio, right?
Ohio State. Yeah.
He wasn't a running quarterback.
No,
I mean he wasn't like a true pocket passer either. But he had a lot of
he was like a dual threat,
and downfield accuracy was a thing for him. And all of a sudden, obviously it's not college. The NFL is much different, but it's like he's been victim of and I hate using the word victim, but the victim circumstance in this case is that the Bears' identity of who they're trying to be, it's like when Nagy came in, they want to be Kansas City. Right. They're not Kansas City. They don't have the playmakers like Kansas City. They don't have the offensive line like Kansas City. And let's be real, dude. What makes Kansas City what they are is Mahomes. Right. And unfortunately, it wasn't translating, but even though if you're a casual fan, you could see that what they try to do doesn't work. So it's been super frustrating.
You know what? Who's actually doing pulling a Kansas City right now, and not in the way of like quarterback play, but how to basically rebuild a franchise? The Detroit Lions. Yep. So the Detroit Lions, they literally looked at how modern day Kansas City literally built themselves and everything, being Super Bowl contenders, just being a top contender in the NFL, right? They're arguably the best team in the NFL, even if their offense isn't quite right after Eric Bieniemy went to Washington, right? But but they're still winning games. They're still like they have a better defense than they've ever had. So they're a more balanced team this year than they've ever been and all that. So their offense may have gone down, but their defense has gone significantly higher. So now they're a more balanced team and they're still able to beat teams. It may not seem like as like much of a blowout, but they're doing the job. But what Detroit did is that they drafted, like the first thing that they did was they drafted a left tackle to cover the blind side. Then they traded away their franchise player like Matt Stafford and got a shit ton of picks and Jared Goff and everything. And everyone's thinking, I remember I was like, LA did Jared Goff really dirty because they're like, oh, we don't believe in this guy. I'm like, dude, this guy is actually a good player. And like he was a young quarterback. Yeah, he makes some mistakes, but the fact is that they're like, oh, well, he took us to one Super Bowl, but he lost it. He's not our guy. But he's having an amazing season. Obviously, like last game against the Ravens, which the Ravens are a really good team, he got destroyed by. But they built up their offense of a left tackle. They got like a solid veteran quarterback that can throw the ball. That's a good pocket passer, like a legitimate like gunslinger. And then they started building up getting a good receiver, getting a good running back and all. And so they're really just building up their team. Oh yeah. And then their edge rusher, Hutchinson, bro, he's a beast.
Do you know how tall that guy is?
No. How tall is he?
He is 6'7", like 268 pounds.
What?
Basically pure muscle.
Dude, that guy's a monster. Holy shit.
I didn't realize, because there was some commentary about his wingspan, because I think it was after the first week. There was week one. He had a crazy good game. And I was like, he was standing next to somebody, and he looked like a gigantic person standing next to like a child.
Right.
And I'm like, how tall is he? Anyways, looked up. He's 6'7", dude, and just all athletic as can be. Yeah. And they scored on that pickup with him. And I totally agree with you. The rebuild of Detroit's model, they went out.
Very similar to like Kansas City.
Right. You build off the line.
Yeah, exactly.
You create security. And going after Goff, I thought was genius because his metrics were, if he has protection, he's a top 5 quarterback. If he has to scramble, he can't. He's not fast. Yeah. He's not going to run. If you get pressure on him, which the Patriots showed in the Super Bowl,
right,
it puts him in a spot. But if you have a good line, you can create that distance. He needs that one extra second, and he's, it was like, it's like a 40% differential on his completion percentage. And to talk about the game against, what did they play? Against the Ravens?
Jesus.
They hadn't played Baltimore in years, and I don't even think they've faced them with Lamar.
Oh,
and there's I read some interesting metric that for every team's first time playing against Lamar Jackson with the Ravens, the Ravens have like a 95% win percentage.
Every NFC team.
Oh, any NFC team. Okay.
Yeah. So any NFC team, and it's it's funny because the week before, or was it the week before or 2 weeks before? It's the Steelers beat the Ravens and all, and everyone's saying it was more so the Ravens lost that game rather than the Steelers won that game because there's a bunch of drop passes or miscue with the routes and everything. But I mean, again, Coach Tomlin says, a win's a win. And it's we do not apologize for winning.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I'm like, yeah, I get it. But I'm like, it's obviously if things went another way, the Ravens would have won that game. But at the same time, it's we
football.
Keep exactly. But we keep it the thing is the AFC North, the Ravens will always have a really big challenge against other AFC North teams. Yeah. Every once in a while, it'll be a standard blowout, but yeah, no, because we see them twice a year, every year. It's we're used to so Steelers are used to Lamar Jackson so that they know how to contain him at least to where it's some of his greatness doesn't shine, right?
Right.
And the fact is that I know that there are some people who are I don't believe in Lamar Jackson, I think he's overhyped. And there are times where it's you can see that and you're maybe, but
then you watch him, dude,
yeah,
he's really good.
Yeah, and the thing is that he's he came in more as a scrambling quarterback, like a Michael Vick 2.0.
Yeah.
But honestly, dude, his ability to become more of a pocket passer, he's gotten so much better in his passing game. And honestly, I think he's blooming into into his own, like where he's going into his, his prime, right? Where he still has his legs and he's getting a lot more accurate in the pocket. And so, his career is most definitely going to like expand longer now that he has more of a command in the pocket, because just like Michael Vick, like honestly, he like was mostly a scrambler and like for the majority of his career. And then when he did go to Philly with Ed Reed, he did become a little bit more of a pocket passer way later in his career. But like he had maybe like 2 or 3 good seasons in Philly, and then after that he was kind of done. I mean, granted, funny enough, not a lot of people know this, but Michael Vick was a backup quarterback for the Steelers at the end of his career.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah. He was back up for Big Ben and all that, which was wild to think, because you're like, wait, what the hell? Yeah. So, but it's, he's like, he is a better version of Michael Vick. And I think that, he has a lot of promise. And like one thing that's really cool to see is that, how like, when players get paid a lot of money and all that, or like they get the big payday, but then it's like their play doesn't kind of reflect that anymore, because like they're like, I mean, you could even say the same thing about like Deshaun Watson and how like that whole entire debacle. I love it because fuck the Browns. All right, if you're a Cleveland fan, hey, you know what? You might be a great person, and like we might get along, have a beer, but I mean, fuck your team. Like,
well, I mean, dude, I feel the same way about the Packers. Yeah, even though. Now I feel like we can beat them, even though they finished week 1.
Yeah,
but you know what? And it's interesting because it's like those types of players, like that's what, like going back to the Bears, right? That's what the hope was with Justin Fields, and still is to a certain extent. But I will say this: depending on how his hand heals up, if Tyler Bagent, or AKA Teabag, which is the funniest nickname of a quarterback. If they go out and they beat the Chargers tonight, and he has just a competent game, it doesn't have to be some world beater type.
Right.
He looks. I released last week. He looked good, and he looked good as in he kind of had like a Alex Smith vibe to him. Good game manager, quick reads, didn't turn the ball over. Now it was against the Raiders. So you got to take that for what it is. But at the same time, I think it was a good transition. This will be more of a test tonight.
Yeah.
If they could be competent against what I would say is a porous Chargers defense, and the Bears defense has to stop the Chargers offense, which I feel lies a bigger question mark.
Yeah.
But it should be an entertaining game. I'm super pumped because we're going tonight,
dude.
So.
Yeah, dude, that's going to be sick, man. Man, SoFi's so dope.
I've never been, so I'm really excited.
I've never been inside for a football game. We were there for a concert at the YouTube Theater back in May, but like again, like I'm like, oh man, that looks so sick. I have some friends that like actually work like at SoFi, so like I've always see like all the clips of them on IG and all that. Like I'm like, damn, it looks sick. Totally.
Well, I'll send you some pictures tonight, dude. I'm super pumped. I don't know what to expect other than, I don't know. I feel like I've been trained to not be. I say this out loud, but the reality is, when we lose, is it like just? It's such a weird thing. It's like it means nothing to my life, and it's like didn't you send that to me? It's like I have I have the choice to let this impact me for the remainder of the day. It has no bearing on anything that happens in my life.
And then there's like a blank thing where you just sit. And I was like, I'm going to fucking let it.
Yeah, I'm going to let it destroy my day,
Yeah.
And it's just, I guess that's what it is being a fan. And you'd think,
of course,
I mean, being a fan of a franchise that's been an eternal letdown, essentially, other than like, I guess it makes you just like the little wins in a weird way. Yeah. So it's like not this expectation of greatness. So you kind of just, you roll with it. But
oh, dude, like,
I think it's there though, dude. Like, I think, like, and again, like, I don't want to say like, man, we got to move on from Fields, but I also feel like it might be time to move on. And I'm not saying Caleb Williams is the answer either, because I watched the game last week and he did not look as good as far as, that was the first time I watched the whole game. Now, again, it's one game.
Yeah.
But it was one game against a top tier team that I thought, okay, well, this is what you're going to see in the NFL, more things like this and better. Right. And so how does he handle it? And I was like, oh my God, they're already talking about going after this guy. And I'm like, didn't knock my socks off. I'll say that much.
Actually, hang on. Like, where do you think Caleb Williams is realistically going to go? Like, again, based
in the draft?
Like we're like, he's gonna go number one. Who do you think is actually going to win the Caleb Williams sweepstakes of being like the worst team?
Well, I mean, I hope it's not the Bears because that means the Bears aren't going to win maybe more than 1 or 2 more games for the rest of the season.
Mm-hmm.
I really think that he can be in Arizona. I think that he can end up.
I see that.
Honestly, like he won't end up at Tennessee, but Tennessee would need a quarterback. Although Will Levis is starting today, so we'll see. I thought he was going to do a lot better, pan out more, but he hasn't had a start for the season yet. So
but like he had a couple starts last season, and he did not look good and everything. Like
the mayonnaise and bananas weren't helping him out.
No. Like honestly, like. It's funny because I remember that draft, like, because him and Kenny Pickett were both drafted in the same draft class. Yeah. Kenny Pickett was the first quarterback taken in that. He was the only quarterback in the first round taken. But it was really funny just because, like, it's like, oh, yeah, like, we might get Willis and all that. I think he's a better fit for us, for our team. And I'm like, he might be a better fit for us, like, right now.
Are you talking about Malik Willis?
My bad.
I was talking about Will Levis. It's tough because they have a very similar sounding last name. No, yeah. This was this last draft. Is it Will Levis? Anyway, okay. But he was the guy that during draft day was there because he was going to possibly go in like the top 15. And then he didn't get picked at all. And they were like, on the cameras, and he looked, he was bummed out.
Of course, every guy would.
People were shading on that, and I was thinking, I'm like, why? Of course he's going to be upset. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like if I was told like, hey, you might even go number 2, number 3, number 4, you got your family there, everyone's getting ready and stuff, and then you don't even get picked on day 1, I'd be like,
damn.
I'd have a hard time keeping it together too. So
big time.
Get out there and kick some ass today, bud. You deserve it.
Hell yeah.
But so I know this is a monthly review and we've kind of just basically only talked football.
Yeah.
Well, one more question though. Right. Other than, let's say, who do you think the best team in football is right now?
The best team in football right now. Okay. It's tough because like, other teams blossom at different times and all that. Based off of last week, like again, like it's tough because like, you think like based off of last week, it's like, the Ravens look like just like fucking monsters.
Yeah.
And like all the way like from like week 1 through 5, like I was thinking, San Francisco, which by the way, San Francisco, when we played them week 1, like I was going into the season, like kind of feeling my team a little bit too much. Yeah. And I got humbled real quick on week 1 to the point where it's like, I had like, for a good few weeks, I just had pessimism for my team where it's like, oh, hey, you won a game. It's like, yeah, but did we really win though? It's like, it was kind of like I had a little bitter taste in my mouth all the way from week 1. But I just saw time and time again that like, San Francisco is the real deal. Obviously the last 2 games, kind of demystified that a little bit. Yeah. I think that when they're healthy, that San Fran is probably the best team overall. They have the most complete team. I think the most exciting offense is Miami. I think that when the Bills actually the Bills are hot and cold. They're either really good and dominant or they lose to the Jets. So it's kind of hit and miss. And like, I mean, you could say, even the Eagles are winning the most ugly football that has ever been played. Yeah. The tush push or the brotherly shove, like,
the brotherly shove. I haven't heard that one yet.
Oh man.
That was good.
So, I think that as far as, and now, again, there are some people that are saying like, oh, well, it's Kansas City because they're still winning. They have a more balanced team that they ever had. Like their offense is still like they're still trying to find an identity. They actually just honestly like the only thing that the Kansas City needs is receivers because they can't just rely on Kelsey like they've been doing.
What are you talking about? If you have 10 wide receiver 4s, that it's got to. I'm just joking. You're absolutely right, dude. Yeah. The fact is that they are a team that can still put it together somehow
with
relatively no one. I think Rishi Rice is good. Like I think he will be one outside of Kelsey, but
he'll grow into that for sure.
But like, why aren't they going after like a handful of like decent veterans that they can absolutely be a number 1 on their team?
Big time.
I mean, honestly, that's why I think the organization looks at it and they just go,
Yeah.
We're actually doing pretty good still with relatively, nobody. And they're they don't take the financial cap hit. You know what I mean? So they're basically balling on a budget and it's all around Mahomes.
Yeah.
I mean, that's it. And their defense, for whatever reason, started the year good. Like that never happens.
Exactly. Like Kansas City has been known for just having a really their best defense is their offense. Is like that in the past. Like they've had like next to nothing like defense, and which is why that 1 year, 4 or 5 years ago, where it was like Jared Goff's Rams and Mahomes with Kansas City, where that was like the most like high scoring game in NFL history.
Dude, I was at that game.
Oh,
it was a life moment checkoff list. Like that was the most exciting game. I mean, dude, like,
bro, I
would run up to go grab a beer and I would miss 2 touchdowns. I'm like, what's going on? Like it just like in 6 minutes, like, come on, it was really cool.
Yeah. Like I honestly, dude, I think that as far as when it comes to, there is no, like, I don't see like a standalone best team in the league and everything. I would say like there's a good handful of teams that I think will take it all the way. I think that it's like, San Fran when they're healthy. I think Kansas City is still there, like unless like they absolutely just get beat and everything. If they like get handed, basically if they get handed it to them, like the Lions just got handed to them, like from the Ravens and everything. If they have a loss like that, then it's like, okay, yeah, they're human. But like they're winning games. It's not as flashy as it used to be. They're kind of playing more conservative football and everything. Like again, like relatively for Kansas City.
Yeah.
But I honestly think like, we might see a rematch of like a 49er Chiefs Super Bowl again.
I could see that.
I could also see, a rematch of last year of the Chiefs and the Eagles.
I don't want to see that.
I don't either. I really don't. Like, but like, like I want more variety. But I think the Ravens are in the mix for sure. I like, again, there are teams that I really like seeing, and I like seeing them do well, like the Lions, even though I know that they're a division rival.
I don't care. That's who I'm. I mean, obviously, I wish the Bears would turn it all around and be undefeated and have a playoff run by the end of the year. But at the end of the day, I think Detroit's really well rounded. Like a lot of the points you're talking about earlier. And I really, really think that they have a good chance of making it to the end. Are they the best team in football? Which is, I guess, what the original question was. Probably not, but they're up there. And I would say probably the Niners are probably the most complete team. Their defense is unreal. And
dude,
as much shade as Brock Purdy gets, as far as like, I know he had a bad game last week, but
yeah, he also had a concussion last week that no one knew about until like he got on the plane.
It was like a day later, dude. Yeah, where he's like, oh yeah, by the way, like I can't see my toes. He didn't say that, but what I'm getting at is that like that makes more sense because he had a lot of bad reads in that game, which hasn't been his MO since he took
the last 11 games.
Yeah. So,
dude, honestly, I think that like before we move on too, with Brock, the whole entire thing with Brock Purdy, this is my thing. Like, so I think that people may have overhyped him when he came in and like he like started taking over and like no one was expecting anything from him, and then he does his job basically. And then everybody overhypes him, right? And then now it's like we're getting to a point where people are now just starting to dog him and trash him like unnecessarily and all. I think maybe some of that praise might have been unnecessary too, but now it's like it's the exact opposite. A pendulum swung in a different direction. I think that he is like, again, people need to understand that, dude, this is only his second year. This guy came in as Mr. Irrelevant. Like literally, like for those who don't know, Mr. Irrelevant is literally the last pick in the NFL draft. So he was the last person to get drafted in his draft class. Whereas, funny enough, he's the last quarterback. Whereas Kenny Pickett was the first quarterback, and he definitely showed that he was the better quarterback that week one. Yeah. But granted, again, different circumstances where like Kenny Pickett is in a situation where like he has to step up and be kind of do more for his team, whereas Brock Purdy has a team set up around him. So honestly, like he has kind of a similar situation and like I hate making this comparison, but like, and everybody does, is that he has a better situation as like a Tom Brady type of situation where
he's going into a good organization.
Good organization.
What I mean?
Like, everything else is set in place, and he's literally like, again, like no one expected a lot from Tom Brady when he first started because no one really knew who the hell he was.
Right.
And so same thing with Brock Purdy. He's doing his job. He's doing great. There was like the game in Cleveland. It's just like there was just a bunch of stuff happening there as far as like, wet, like bad weather, all that stuff. Granted, it's football, obviously, I understand, but like, that was his first like not great game that he's had in the NFL, and everyone's going way too hard on him because like he's supposed to be perfect because like he has a great team around him. He should not be able to mess up. I'm like, dude, he's a young quarterback in the NFL, right, and like he's there's gonna be growing pains there,
dude. The fact he hasn't had the game like last week,
right,
I think more so shows you that like he is absolutely he's gonna be the guy in San Francisco barring no injury for sure. And and like so much of that, and we'll move on from football because I feel like we need to cover some other things too, but totally. I could talk this all day, dude. I love it, man. But which maybe next time we won't call it a review, we'll just do football
Sundays.
But totally.
Tim, new segment.
Right? I know we've talked about it. Yeah, right. But it's so much just kind of lucky. Like on where you land, like he's obviously a good, like Purdy's a great quarterback, a good player, a good coachable player. Yeah. And, he happened to fall into a team that has a lot of the key components already there, so it's like, dude, if Kenny Pickett was on the Niners.
Oh, dude, he would be doing amazing.
Right. You know what I mean? Like he's like a step up in, athleticism, throwing, that kind of like gamer type,
right.
Or so it's like so much of the shuffle, just that's what makes football so interesting is like you can have guys like whoever, like look at Justin Fields, a good example, right?
Right.
All the metrics of athleticism off the charts. He's the next whatever.
Yeah.
Dude, you go to an organization which, fuck our offensive coordinator. I can't stand him, dude. Stop running out of shotgun formation. Just do it, mix it up. Go traditional, play action, rollouts, all that stuff. Like as soon as they went old school, first game, the game that they tried that out, they scored 38 points.
Yeah.
Looked great.
Wait,
Next game,
was that against the Broncos?
It was against Denver. We fell apart there in the end, but but I'm just saying, like, the scheme was different, showed success. Next week comes back, they went away from it. Sucked, lost. Week after that comes back, we end up winning that game because they started mixing it up again. Yep. And like to talk like I know exactly what I'm talking about, dude. I'm just a big fan. That's all. I'm not a head coach or I'm not an offensive coordinator.
Yep.
But I tell you what, if I can see things as a casual fan, I'd have to imagine like they're going, what are you doing, man? Now is that the play calls? Is that the expectations of your players being able to execute, or are your players messing it up? Because all these things go inside, but at the end of the day, if you're not winning, dude, it's been 3 years. 3 years. Fields has won like 3 games. Bro. Or 4 games, I think now. That's the longest I've ever seen a rookie quarterback, which he's not even a rookie anymore.
Right.
Given a chance to be a winner. And just, dude, the NFL, the media, everything is always like, it's not his fault. It's not his fault.
Everyone's making excuses for him and everything.
Yeah, and believe me, I do it too. Like I'm like, well, the line sucks. It was a bad play calling, da-da-da-da-da. But at the end of the day, dude, you got an undrafted free agent that comes in that hasn't played a game since a Division II college team.
Right.
Came out, looked competent.
Yeah.
And won.
Yeah.
So I'm like, okay, well, like I said, tonight's going to be the true test. I really hope it works out for the Bears. And I'm bummed because my wife's a Chargers, and I'm not bummed, but like there's going to be that, like,
oh, there's going to be that.
She's a Chargers fan, and I mean, like, and I love the Chargers. Justin Herbert, Eckler, freaking Josh Palmer. Hopefully, well, in my case, I hope he doesn't play tonight, but he probably will. And him and Keenan Allen will probably torch the Bears secondary.
I mean, dude, like you have Joey Bosa and Khalil Mack as well, and everything. But the thing is, like,
Khalil Mack.
Yeah. Well, dude,
sorry, dude, you're awesome, but you sucked for us.
Yeah, dude, it's funny because like, whenever I'm not rooting for the Steelers and all that, I'm rooting for the Raiders, and so he was a Raider first.
Yeah.
And it's funny just because, I really don't care about the Chargers. Honestly, they should have just stayed in San Diego.
Yeah,
you know, but yeah, it's like, I think that like, yeah, whenever it's like the Raiders are playing, it's like, obviously, it's like, yeah, we hate the Broncos, and then like, yeah, the Chiefs, it's like, yeah, we don't like them either. But even though it's exciting for them to watch, honestly, I don't have any beef with the Chiefs. I think what they're doing is great, and honestly, their fan base is awesome.
Yeah,
like honestly, I've never met a dick that's a Chiefs fan.
No, right?
You know, they're all great. Yeah,
even though I kind of want them to be, so I could like not like them.
Yeah, so I could hate them,
but,
right?
Yeah, I'm like, because it's easier.
Yeah,
when the fans are jerks, you're like, these guys.
Dude, that's
but
why.
When you're not, you're like, damn it,
dude. That's why it's so easy to hate New England, you know. Because like fucking Boston fans, dude. Yeah, dude.
Yeah, Tom Brady, man. Yeah. But anyway, I'm trying to cover a little bit of this. No, dude, I love it, man. I love it. I just want to. We'll just talk about one more subject, and it's super relevant and it's very controversial. You know, so I'll try to tactfully speak my mind about it, which I feel like is kind of in the middle anyway. So,
same.
But what's happening with Israel and Palestine? You know, I'm sure everyone is aware of the incident that occurred, and now the backlash that's occurring with the whole incident going down in the Gaza Strip.
Yep.
Without getting too deep into the history of stuff, because I am not a history expert at this, which also is the reason why I take my stance on this, is it's an area that has been fueled by turmoil based on religious ideology from the get-go.
Yeah, dude, it's like what was it? Like this goes back like centuries, right?
Well, it's the fight of that area predominantly is holy rights, right? You know, so you have Palestinians, Muslim stating that these are holy lands of this area versus Israelis with, you know, having this, and again, like I don't even know the exact spots of it, but it runs the borders of both those countries.
Right.
And, you know, it's one of those things where I feel like there's, you know, like you said earlier, there's bad blood on both. Oh, whoops. Sorry. I'm trying to do the cameras at the same time. But there's bad blood on both sides, you know, and it's like, so when you have people, you know, when I say people, I mean people from that area that have the affiliation to it. I'm not talking about some white college kid that's not affiliated in either way but wants to stand up, and I use that term just because there's a lot of memes and things of seeing these more specifically like the pro-Palestinian protests and stuff, where you start looking in the crowd and you're like, man, okay, like interesting vibe, you know. Because, and again, right, so it's like if you're taking the side of like I don't want anyone to die.
Right.
Okay. Which is a fair statement. You know what I mean? It's like, I don't want to see innocent people get hurt. And I feel that way on both sides. So it's like, my take when I first saw it, when that happened the first day, I thought, oh man, that's not good. No. You know what I mean? And obviously it's not good, but like this wasn't just like, I mean, dude, Israel has the Iron Dome. They get pot shots from rockets all the time. That's why they have it, right? Yeah. And they're actively defending themselves constantly. Right. Whether you're in agreement to that or not, it's just what it is.
Right.
Right. So when this occurred, which basically was like 1,500 soldiers, whether it was ARC, I mean, you've seen all the concerts where people are flying in and going out and killing people and stuff. Like, when I saw that, I thought, holy crap, dude, like they have to make they have to be extremely aggressive in response.
Right. Dude, actually I agree with you. When I saw that, it was just, it like, you know, that was like kind of like a spark plug. It's like, that was a trigger of, you know, what was to come, to where there would be even like more bloodshed. And it's just like, you know, like, because it's funny how it's like, you know, it's like military operations, though I'm like, you know, like Hamas, the terrorist group, like went in and like literally did it. It was just an act of terrorism, right?
Yeah.
And so, you know, a lot of like, and not only like Israel, like civilians, but like, you know, international civilians that were just at that, like, you know, outdoor festival.
22 Americans, I think, died. Yeah. Like non-military.
Yeah.
You know,
and like, and then like like the people who, didn't die, like there were like a lot of hostages from that situation too that are still hostages, right?
Yeah.
And so obviously, like the whole entire like the retaliation, and this is like where it's like, you know, like the whole entire conflict there is like, you know, like all the bombing that's going down now, where it's like, you know, yes, like what the initial like trigger, like the thing that sparked it all off, at least this current rendition, because again, like there's been so many of these throughout the decades, right?
Right.
And so it's like, the thing is like, I'm like, maybe this is going to sound controversial, but I'm like, there's blood on both sides and everything. Like there's blood on both people's hands, like where, it's, I obviously I just want it all to stop. I just want it all to stop and everything, because, but like the retaliation of like, just like this, like straight up bombing and everything. Right. It just like, obviously it's like we're like the actions or like what they're saying is like, we want to get rid of Hamas, but then it's like, but the
declared
actions,
war on
Hamas.
Right.
But it's like the actions are not like, it's like you're disregarding civilians and everything. And I think that's kind of like, I think that's like the issue. I think that's the issue with what a lot of people are having as far as when it comes to like, like the protests or the ceasefire stuff, right? It's like, it's like, this is not the way to do it, or like, I'm like, it's becoming a more of a humanitarian crisis.
Right. And that's kind of the thing too, is it's like, okay, look, like and then when I talk about it, I will sound like I'm pro-Israel when I'm talking about it, and that's not necessarily the true foundation of what I'm thinking, because at the same time, it's like, look, to have an event that took place, right? So it was the largest loss of Israelis essentially since the Holocaust in a one-time event, right? So you're crazy if you think that they're not going to retaliate when every country that surrounds them is basically wants them off the map, right? Doesn't recognize Israel as a country, and a lot of that is disputed in religious issues because the majority of the surrounding countries are all Muslim. And, and I'm not saying that's wrong. I'm just saying that like if you're backed into a corner, which these people are, it makes sense that they would be aggressive in the retaliation. However, it's hard to justify that when you're, it's like, look, collateral damage is a thing. That's why war isn't pretty. That's why all the stuff that goes on when there's fighting, it sucks. So when people are like, I'm pro saving Palestinian people, it'd be like, yeah, dude, like I totally would support not women and children dying.
Yes.
I agree with that. But I also think it's kind of like there's too many blanket statements. It's too generalized when it's like, because you're saying, okay, free Palestine. It's like, well, just so you're aware, the Gaza Strip isn't essentially Palestine.
Yeah.
Okay. It's like a border shared area where there's both sides of people that are in one spot. If the goal is to go in to eradicate, which will never happen, you can't, because it's like saying that you're going to war on an ideology. Hamas is a group, right? And they're a recognized group within Palestine, which is like this pseudo-political / terrorist organization. But at the end of the day, it's like when people are saying they're freeing Palestine, I don't feel like most people aren't, well, we're pro-Hamas, but you're really just anti-people getting killed. You're anti-collateral damage. You're anti-this, but it's not how it gets propagated from the media.
Right.
So when you see like LGBTQ flags flying free Hamas, I'm like, hey, don't you remember like a year and a half ago when the girl was stoned to death or was killed by the Palestinian officers because she was wearing what wasn't considered to be appropriate out in public?
Right.
You're telling me that Palestine supports this? Like, that's why it's like it's like this hypocrisy that just keeps accelerating. But like most movements that are bound with religion or faith or race or whatever, it kind of has generated these huge outcries, right? And so like that's why we're seeing, like, I think it was in DC, they had 100,000 people show up in a pro-Palestinian deal, and everyone's chanting from the river to the sea, set Palestine free. And I'm like, just so everyone's aware of that, that means from the river, from the Jordan River up to the sea, Israel is in the middle of that. So if you're saying like you're setting them free, to get rid of Israel? Like, that's why it's like, I don't think people understand the history and the understanding of how this operates, where it's like, I don't think the random person who's like pro whatever, that they don't have a total grasp on what's going on. I just think it's like, sometimes these turn into a popular thing. Right. And then it's like, I'm like, well, dude, like I could be against both things. I just don't want innocent people to be hurt. I don't want the fighting to keep going on, and it's sad to see, but I'm also like, well, what do you think is going to happen? Yeah. Like, you can't do what you just did and then Israel's going to go, oh, okay. It'd be like, I was trying to I was talking to someone about this the other day, and I felt like it's not a great example, but I was trying to bridge that. It would be like saying between, let's say, California and Mexico, right? And you can make the argument that the United States and California and the borderlands of Mexico, our involvement, moving, drug trafficking, people does that we've done some shady things that people that live in Mexico are probably like, F the United States. My family member was killed, in the process of this. Just like we would say, we don't want the cartel moving in here and doing all this stuff and innocent people dying and all that. The bad blood is there. Right. But if 1,000 people came over into San Diego and 500 people were slaughtered that day, you can bet your ass the United States would go in and mess some shit up, with the potential of collateral damage also being a problem. So it's like, I can understand.
It'd be almost like kind of like a forced hand to like retaliate. Like it's like a forced retaliation.
Right. As like, even if you are the representative of that country, how are you going to walk up and be like, yeah, we're just, we're really unhappy with how this went? No, there has to be a strong stance. And even more so in the Middle East, which I think a lot of those areas are basically the power structure is what leadership is built upon. And fear is a huge tactic. And so it's like, at least I'm not shocked that this is the response. You know, the unfortunate side of it is like, look, because like even the whole thing with like, oh, they bombed which is actually kind of ironic because it was like 2 days into it.
The hospital.
The hospital that was supposedly bombed. Which,
by Israel, but
it wasn't.
It wasn't. It was like actually a failed bomb from like Hamas, right?
Right. They were trying to launch bombs from the parking lot of the hospital that ended up blowing up in the parking lot, but then they said it was an Israel strike. So in like, not to get, I don't want to get nitpicky in it, but it's like, look, at the end of the day, it's gross,
murky.
it's dirty,
it's murky waters.
Yeah, basically. It's murky is a great way to.
Honestly, I think honestly, okay, like, so I me being, just a white guy in America, right? I'm like, as far as like, I don't like it, like this doesn't have like a direct impact on me because I'm neither like Jewish or Palestinian, right? Like, so, or like, or Muslim, like honestly, like I'm neither and all that. So it doesn't affect me personally, right? So it's like, I'm definitely the outsider looking in on this. And so obviously I don't want any part in it. Like the one thing that I do fear though, as an American, is more so of like the broader implications of, would this be like the powder keg thing that actually sparks off another world war, where it's like if we go to war with Iran, which I think that's like a worst case scenario, because we don't want to we don't want a war with Iran. We don't honestly we don't want a war with anybody. Like, and that's the thing where it's like and I don't want us to get involved in something that we don't necessarily need to be involved with. I know, I do understand that we are allies to Israel, and actually like Israel is like one of the biggest consumers of our weapons. They're our biggest customer as far as when it comes to like manufacturing weapons and everything, because of their military aspects. Right?
Yeah, we funnel a lot of stuff through Israel, and us being one of their biggest backers, gives them, it propagates them too to be I would say, to not be messed with in that way, right? But it's like, they're also one of like the only standing democracies in the area,
right?
And and it's interesting because it's like, and they have a big split over there, and like in the last couple of weeks, I've been listening to a lot of stuff and digging in a little bit, because I was like, I don't know, I want to educate myself a little bit on some stuff, because I feel like those implications on the broader spectrum, like what you're talking about, is what concerns me.
Yes, that's more of my concern. If like I don't want to come off seeming like insensitive to the issue, because again, it's like, I think that it's there's a lot of stuff that I don't understand. Even dude, like I remember I've had like Jewish friends like growing up and all, and like they've kind of talked about like conflicts, Israel, Palestine, like conflicts back in the day when like I was like a kid, like 10, 15 years ago, right? Yeah. And the thing is, every single like Jewish friend I had, like I would ask like a question about it, I was like, no, you don't understand. Like this is like, it's different. Don't like, and everything.
Yeah. And right. And probably around that time, I thought that they had a small war that had gone on between the two already. So it's like the turmoil in past history is there. So that's kind of where it's like when you hear things and it's like these are the bad guys, and it's like, look, you can't take it
as good guys, bad guys.
You can't because it's like there's both on both sides, I'm sure.
Right.
But it's like you have to go off to like at least the way I look at it is that this was a specific event that's going to propagate a retaliation. That retaliation now hopefully isn't drawn out for too long, but if they can get key people within the terrorist group or what is deemed as a terrorist group, then good. Then that's a win in itself. But the reality is that as this keeps moving on, because like look, the United States has deployed ships closer to that area. They moved in 2 days ago. They had bombed like Iran-backed Islamic extreme groups in Syria. In Syria.
Oh, Syria. Oh, yeah.
And and that's because that was a retaliation effort because the U.S. outposts have been starting to become attacked. So it's
from Arab
just extreme. We can just call them extreme groups at this moment. And I don't know the specifics on a lot of that stuff, but I'm like, there are many things occurring right now where you have positioning of stuff that can lead to a potential World War III type conflict, and that's not good for anybody.
No.
And so the hope here is that it's like, listen, get the people in charge that it started this, that propagated this move of Hamas. That's a win.
Yeah.
Get rid of them. You know, and I'm on board with that. That's fucking terrible what happened. But outside of that, it's like, I hope that cooler heads will prevail at a certain point.
Yeah.
Because our economy, the way things are going, all this stuff, it's like, dude, I don't think we would want that. Now, I'm sure like Lockheed Martin and all them are licking their chops because they're like, we're going to make a shit ton of money if this goes through. But, but at the end of the day, I think it's like that would be a bad deal for the world in that case. And look, Iran's a heavy hitter, whether you think they're a powerful nation or not, but they're part of the BRICS group with China, Russia, you know what I mean? These are more implications. And what'll end up happening, in my opinion, is that if we do get drawn into more conflict, all that's going to happen is it'll be a war of economics. Yeah. Which it already has been, but now these groups are trying to, they're trying to power play the world. And it's like the United States and the UN, I don't know. It's like, will we be okay here in the United States? I think, we'll be okay, like physically. Yeah. I don't think there's going to be nuclear war. And I know people use that term a lot because it's a scary subject matter, but I also feel like anytime you talk about like nukes, that's more of like something I think where it's like, unless the world's like ready to write itself off, right? Which I don't think that's going to be the case. You can't nuke an area because the area that you hit is not going to be operable for quite some time, right? With the radiation fallout and stuff like that. So the idea that this Terminator-like end of the world may occur, I don't really believe that because, it's like, all right, well then what? You're going to nuke a country and then that country is non-inhabitable? Yeah. Okay, that doesn't even make sense from a power play position. Exactly. You know what I mean?
Like, that's it. Like, that's if like, like you're backed into the corner and like you're like, well, it's like if we can't have it, nobody can kind of deal. I do, right? And like it's funny too because actually like with everything going on, with Israel and Gaza Strip and all that, how funny it is how like all the attention has been taken away from Ukraine. But
not the spending bill that we're trying to sneak another $60 billion over to Ukraine.
Bullshit though. Like, but it's like, it's like, it's starting to where it's like, Zelensky's like starting to sweat, I think a little bit because you're like, oh, like, it's like the support and like the attention's not going to be on them anymore. Yeah. And so it's like, that's going to be like a little interesting there as well. But I honestly think, when it comes to just all of this conflict, obviously, again, there's only so much that I know about this topic, and again, I can be quite frank, like I don't know too much other than like what's currently happening right now and what we're currently seeing. I do think that the retaliation that Israel is like unleashing upon like the Gaza Strip and like again it's supposed to be towards Hamas, but the civilian casualties are so high, and a lot of them are children and everything. Because like a Gaza Strip, Gaza, like
2 million people I think live in the area, and it's a mix of everybody of the area. So it's like
almost half of that is like children. And that's something that is that's something to like shed light on, where it's like that's not like, I mean, like, obviously that's not okay, but
Right.
but you know, it comes to a point where it's like, hell, I think even like Jocko Willink like said that it's like, yeah, I think the bombing kind of needs to stop, and you need to kind of switch tactics because this is not necessarily working. And also, if you think about it this way, you know, what type of look is that for Israel, right? Like for like the world to see it, like you're already starting to see the tides turn as far as like public opinion towards Israel because of like, you know, their retaliation. Obviously, like, you know, it's like they had to retaliate and everything. They had to show some type of force, but one is like some type of force almost overkill.
Yeah, and I think that that's a very good point. And that's there was actually, I can't remember one of the podcasts I was listening to. It was like the day after the event occurred, and someone was talking about that exact thing. Is that the way things seem to work as of in the last few years, you know, with social media influence and all that kind of stuff. It's like the very first day that happened, the support of Israel was massive,
skyrocketed. Yeah.
Right? It's like, oh my God, that's terrible, because it's something to empathize with. I mean, it was absolutely crazy.
Yeah.
And so, and it's like, okay, well, they're going to do something back. Right.
Yeah.
But as time moves forward, what happens? We all forget about the initial,
you know what?
the initial issue. So then,
Dude, I think we listened to the same podcast. It was Breaking Points.
no, this was, I think, the PBD, Patrick Bet David.
Oh, Patrick Bet, yeah.
And
Okay.
it was someone that he had on the show that was talking about it, and
Maybe it was the same person because like I listened to the same thing with
Breaking Points.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Great.
I mean, that's the truth behind it. And just like everything else, I mean, look, you know, I mean, a good example, again, probably not a popular topic, but what happened with BLM and, you know, the George Floyd protest. And it's like, look, people, I mean, not as, it's a bad comparison to death, but what I mean is that a situation propagated a response.
Right.
And that response, you know, depending, I mean, look, fired up because this guy was killed, right? That's the narrative, you know, and I'm not in support of the Chauvin guy at all.
Right.
But I don't know, like in the last week or so, the autopsy report, like the official document, came out, and it was talking about there was no physical damage to his body that the coroners found. It was just the tox screening of the high fentanyl is is the cause of death. Right. So, and that's out there. I'm not making this up, and I'm not saying, you know, I'm not saying like, see, this was all messed up. I don't mean it that way. Cause like, I understand there's a field response with things and how things work. Now, I definitely think it was way over the top and out of line with the destruction that caused.
Oh, big time.
You know, but going back to my point is that if that information had come out at that, it is irrelevant,
right?
Because the wheel already has started turning in that way, and we forget about the reason, or maybe it's not what actually happened, but it's the thought of what happened,
right?
Which perpetuates things moving forward. Which in this case, it's probably going to be the opposite for the Israel support,
right?
Because even though it's like, yeah, absolutely, go in there and fuck these people up, dude. They killed hundreds of innocent people, hostages, all
babies,
that shit.
40 babies. Like,
well, that, and I, you know, and then it was like, is that true? Is it not true? And I'm like, look, at the end of the day, like, well, it's crazy. Yeah. It's all crazy, and the people in charge of that deserve to get taken down. But as this moves forward, the tactics that they choose to do, the bombings, the collateral damage that will happen no matter what, even though, like, I will say that we give them 48 hours to vacate an area, but then you have thousands of refugees that have been trying to get to the borders of the areas. Egypt turns them down, freaking Syria turns them down, all these other things. So now you force them back into the fucking soup.
Yeah. Well,
you know what I mean? And then people are going to die, you know, and it's not good either way, you know?
And another thing too with that is like, as far as like giving them 48 hours and like their only route to like Egypt, like to get to Egypt and everything gets bombed and everything. And so it's like, where are they supposed to turn to? You know, and also again, like, you know, it's just, I feel like I do feel like, you know, the other countries surrounding, have like, you know, they like inadvertently have blood on their hands too for turning away. Right. Like, sure. It's like, you know, it's like, oh, like they're like, no, you need to go back and everything. Right. It's like, we don't want any of this and everything, but it's like, you know, I think it's like a whole big mess. But I do think like what you were saying as far as like, like the thought of it, and then it's like people get caught up in the emotion, right? And that's why like where I see people like that, again, like whether it be like, the BLM, like protests and riots and everything, or even with this, it's just like people get caught up with the emotion, and people do things based off of emotion and everything, where, I think that, I mean, I believe that you do this too, but like, taking a step back and like just looking at the situation without the emotion, seeing what's going on, because again, like we can get way too caught up with like, again, like you get caught and dragged away and everything with like the like emotion of the time that's happening, and like not think in a way where it's just like you need to have a broader perspective instead of like this very honed in like this pain point. I also think that how like I guess like in soccer it's like, or well, any sports really, someone might do something to a player, like give a cheap shot and everything, but it's like the foul or the flag or the red card or the yellow card, whatever, like soccer.
Are you making a soccer reference right now?
I was.
I'm just kidding.
Sorry, I just watched Beckham, so
okay.
Yeah.
Soccer's cool like, now,
right,
dude. It's cool.
I know, yeah. But like you get the flag called on you and all that, the technical, all that stuff. Like that only is done mostly to the retaliators and not to the initial person that caused that cheap shot. Right. I mean, obviously it happens where it's like, if there's a blatant cheap shot, like, and it'll get called, but there's a lot of times where they'll do like the slide cheap shot where it's like to get under the guy's skin, and then the other guy just erupts and goes ham on them. Right. And so that's kind of what I'm seeing what's going on right now. Like, again, making it like terrible to make a sports reference for war, but like,
I mean, it's a reference,
right? So it's like, like Hamas did this absolute cheap shot, like a horrific cheap shot. Right. But then it's like the retaliation is the thing where it's like, what was it? Okay. You know what? Here, I could make this type of reference, right? Where it's like a couple years ago, there was like the Myles Garrett, Mason Rudolph, like Browns Steelers game, right?
Yeah.
So the Steelers, like Myles Garrett, like sacks Mason Rudolph and all that, and then I guess like there's some stuff being said and all that, and then like Mason Rudolph, like he says something to Mason Rudolph says something like in his face and everything, and they get into it, and to a point where it's like Myles Garrett takes off Mason Rudolph's helmet and smashes it on Mason Rudolph's head. Luckily, like honestly, like if it was turned the other way, Mason Rudolph would have been dead, because Myles Garrett is, for those that don't know, Myles Garrett is like a fucking unit. Like
the freakiest athlete, like it looked like he was concocted in a petri dish.
Yeah.
Like he is a monster of a man.
A monster of a man. Yeah. He's twice the size of both me and Jordan combined.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's how big he is. But like Mason Rudolph, I guess apparently said something to Myles Garrett, and so it caused Myles Garrett to retaliate. And then he gets the like a suspension for the majority of the year based off of that action, right? Regardless of what Mason Rudolph did and everything, it's like the action that Myles Garrett took was totally not excusable. Like, and that's not something that like, and that's something that everyone's like, or like, oh, well, I get it, but you shouldn't have done that. I think that's kind of the similar thing as far like, again, like not similar.
No, I see the explanation, dude, and the comparison, and that's what I mean, dude. That's what most things in life, kind of how they work. It's like an inexcusable response. It doesn't excuse the reason of why the response was that way. Maybe you're vindicated in that moment,
right?
But it doesn't. Depending on what the aftermath of that response is, everyone's going to forget the reason why you did it.
Yeah, everyone's just going to know the action that you took.
Exactly, yeah. And that's why it's like this whole thing with the conflict that's going on over there. Is it's so hard to just be like, oh, I'm one side, I'm this, I'm that,
Right.
And at the end of the day, if you're, which I feel like most people are probably pro humanitarian rights, you know what I mean? And so, and there's no clear cut way to go into it, and like, look, I I have friends that are Jewish or and I have friends that are Muslim and Palestinian, and so it's
same,
like
same.
I
have people on both sides.
I absolutely hear people out for what their opinions are, and at the end of the day, it's like my general opinion on it all is like I don't want any more fighting, and I don't want to see people struggle, and I hope that the bad people on either side get taken care of. Now I know there's, it's like what is it? You can't make an omelet without cracking a few eggs, and that's a terrible fucking term to say in relation to war.
Right.
So it's like there is an understanding that conflict will generate collateral damage. I just hopefully that collateral damage gets mitigated and is less and less moving forward, because it's super sad to see anybody lose their life that doesn't, that isn't involved.
Right.
And but the other side of me is kind of like looking at it where it's like, dude, I see all these like pro whatever rallies, and you're like, dude, you don't fucking know, dude. You have no idea. You know what I mean? Or maybe you do. Maybe you do. And if your family members are over there and all this stuff, for whatever side you're on, I absolutely understand the passion that's behind your stance.
Right.
I just think that the other people that you're influencing, because they just feel a certain way, those are the people that I'm like, take a step back, see what's going on. Make an educated opinion before you paint your body and show up to a protest screaming your heads off. I mean, like, that's what, I don't know. I feel like it's like the non-sport enthusiast sport,
dude. Honestly,
and you know what I mean. Yes. And it's unfortunate to see, because these are big things and they are terrible. So it's like that's like going back to sit, and where it's like, you want to support whatever group it is you want to support. It's like, I get it. But I think instead of being like, hey, I'm pro-Palestine, I'm pro-Israel, you should be like, I'm pro-anti-war.
Yeah,
like that's what you are.
I think that's
you know what I mean. You want to paint yourself and all of this. Whatever that flag is, or whatever that sign you're holding is, like, no more innocent deaths, period, dude, on both sides. It doesn't mean I'm against Muslims. It doesn't mean I'm against Israel. It doesn't mean anything other than I just don't want to see innocent people die. Yeah. And it's like, that might be a little bit of a cop-out, I'm sure, if someone's listening. They're like, I've heard you say like, things, whatever. But I'm like,
both sides stands for BS and all that, like,
sure.
Yeah. Like, whatever. But like, no. I think, honestly, like, dude, I agree 100% with you, man. I think that as far as, and obviously there's a lot more complications within the issue. It's like there's a lot more in there, like a lot more, there's a lot more nuance in the situation. There is stuff that, like, there are things that, like, people that are more pro-Palestine, or people that are from Palestine, they have like legitimate grievances, like 100% and everything. There's stuff involved there, but then again, there is also grievances for Israel too, and 100%, like, right, and saying, honestly, I think that it's like whoever had like more back, like, honestly, like, I kind of just think about it, like, on the way over here, I'm like, who has like more of the like political and financial military backing, like would be doing the same thing to the other side, right? And so it's like, honestly, like, there is like, bad blood on both sides and everything. And I think that, there is more to it than like, oh, this person's bad, that person's bad. Like, there's a lot of like nuance in this that I think that, I feel like the average American doesn't know about and everything. And I think that, it's like, you can't get swept up from one side or the other about it. And I think that, again, saying that, I was like, just no war, like, just like no more innocent lives, like, taken, like, cause like, it's like, again, it's horrible. Right. And, like, man, like, I had another point too, but that, it was just,
well, I feel like it's something that we could probably talk about, for a couple hours, to be honest with you, but, we'll probably wrap it up here in a second. We got about an hour, but no, man. And well, here, how about this? With all the doom and gloom outside of the football talk that we've had, I'm super happy that we were able to get on here and have fun. Well, I shouldn't say fun conversation with what we just talked about, but have a good conversation about it, because it is relevant and it is going on. But at the end of the day, I think that for everyone who gets wrapped up into the polarizing political stuff, just take a deep breath and look around you. See what's going on. And I honestly, when I say this out loud, I get caught up in a lot of stuff too, and like, I let my emotions, dictate sometimes how I feel. But I think the overall goal is to take that step back, try to appreciate everything that you have in the life where you're at right now and where it's going, and whether it's good or bad. If it's bad, try to correct it and get to a good. And if it's good, enjoy the process, because it's bad for a lot of people out there.
Yeah.
And you got to be appreciative for the things that you have. And, there's so much to talk about as far as, things in my life that I'm just so fortunate to have, being here in the United States in a safe area with, family, friends, all that good stuff. So, I just encourage everyone to go out there, have a great week, or until next time we do this, but, I'm just super pumped we were able to, get on here and get to chat around a little bit.
Hell yeah, man. Hell yeah. No, honestly, like, that was the one thing I remember to say when you were saying it. It's like, dude, I think that, like, there's a lot to be grateful for. And like, as mad as the world may seem and everything, there's actually a lot of good that we can be appreciative and on, as far as like how far we've come technology wise, and like, quality of life, all like overall and everything is like, we've come a long way. Like, as a world, really. And another thing too, like I would like just to leave off with is that, like, with everything going on, it's like, not like, it's like, you don't like if you feel the need that you're or you feel pressure that you have to be an activist, you don't have to be an activist. Not everyone has to, like, you don't have to give a damn about every single thing that goes on in the world, because you're going to be absolutely miserable. Like, that's, you don't need to, like, it's like, you could take a step back. You could take, like, again, like, look at what's going on in your life, in your immediate life. It's like, again, maybe we shouldn't stay online as much as we may do, right? And so it's like, again, stay like in reality, and obviously of course, like, other people's realities may be absolutely horrible, like the people like in Gaza and like everything, but like you were just saying, man, just again, like, I think there's a lot to be grateful for, and I think that for the majority of us, at least here in the United States, there's a lot, like, again, like, there's a lot that I think that, like, we may take for granted, and I think that we need to, like, look at and be grateful for, and that, like, again, hug your loved ones. Yeah. Like, tell them that you love them, tell them like how much you appreciate them, appreciate the things that you have that are great going on in your life. And, I just like, I'm seconding, I'm just repeating what you're saying, but man, dude, it's like, absolutely, like, again, I think that's like that's a huge takeaway that I think that we should all, have. And
we should all practice what we preach in that. And I'm just as guilty of that too. It's easier to say stuff than do it, but I think the premise and moving forward and having a better outlook on things is following through with that. Be appreciative of the things you have, strive for greatness, and life's short.
Life is short.
Life is super short. You know what I mean? And we try to make the best of it. And, look, we're like everything you said too, man. Like, I think it's a good note to leave it off of, is like, being empathetic is one thing.
Yes.
Being a driven activist, if you will, maybe is another. But, be supportive. And I'm not saying that people can't be supportive of things at all. Yeah. But,
I'm not saying you can't show support. Like, I'm not saying that, but like,
showing up and screaming in someone's face because you are doing it, if you're not a vested interest in that, is like not the same as someone, from there, essentially. You know what I mean?
So from it's there, like, who has family members there. Like, I feel like those are two different things. If you're just like, a college student that, like, you don't really, again, for lack of a better term, have skin in the game and everything, but like,
right.
I mean, that's so horrible. Okay,
it makes sense,
but it's like, but
it's not a threat.
It's not. You said. I'm like, oh, geez. But like, again, like, if it doesn't directly affect you, and like, you are the one like going out and like doing this, I'm like, yes, you could show support, but it's like, you don't have to be like, it's like, you don't need to be like an activist yourself. Like, but again, show support, show care, and like, for like the ones who, like, may be going through it. But like, at the end of the day, it's like, just like, live your life, live your life. Yeah. Like, so,
make it better for you and everyone around you.
Exactly. Be a positive person. Or,
what was the other thing? Someone always used to say, like, when you go somewhere, like, make it a thing where, like, leave it better than how you found it.
Oh, dude, that's what my coach would say.
It's a coach thing. Yeah, I was like, I've heard that my whole life.
That's what my coach would say whenever we go into the locker room, or not the locker room, the weight room at my high school. Because I remember, like, as football players, we go in there after either the wrestling team or the basketball team, and they would like leave it like an absolute mess. And yes, I'm calling people out at El Toro High School.
It's the wrestlers,
dude, fucking wrestlers. I swear to
dirty,
God,
dude, you're gross.
Honestly, like you wouldn't re-rack your shit and all that, and like and if you guys like, alumni that are hearing this and everything, like it's like if you want to come after me, I said what I said. You guys like did not re-rack your weights. It's a pet peeve of mine, but you know what? It taught me to be, it's like, again, like you said, leave it better than how you found it. And I think that's the greatest takeaway of everything.
It's a cliche term that I've heard growing up, but you know what? It's a very good euphemism for life.
Exactly.
And,
be
hopefully
a positive influence,
Exactly, man. Well, shoot, dude. We'll wrap it up, man.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for coming on. Normally this is Tim's MO, but can we do a let's go on 3?
All right. 1, 2, 3. Let's go.
Bye, everybody. Thank you so much for listening in. If you liked what you just listened to, please leave us a 5-star review on Apple Podcast and on Spotify. Please follow us on YouTube, on Instagram, and on Facebook. And a big shout out to Stephen Clark, our sound editor. He's a huge part of this team that is unseen. It's 89 Barbers, our first sponsor. Look good, feel good, be great. That's 2 locations, Orange, California and Long Beach, California. Book your appointment online, 89barbers.com. Bye, everybody.